everybody. Welcome to episode number 95 of Driftless Knitting. This is a podcast all about knitting and creating with some lovely yarns, and yeah, just doing what I love. I'm coming to you today on Tuesday, June 16th, I want to say. All the days are kind of getting lumped into one big day, it feels like, but it is Tuesday. It is about 5:30. Yes, 5:30 in the afternoon. So not coming to you kind of at a normal time, but you know, just fitting in a podcast episode when I can. And it is a pretty warm day today. It's about 82 degrees Fahrenheit here in Wisconsin. I am coming to you from outside Madison, Wisconsin, a little north of Madison, where I live with my husband and our soon-to-be son. I am just over 6 months pregnant with our first baby, and yeah, I got a lot of fun baby stuff to show you. But the past few weeks, I've definitely gained a few inches around my midsection. Things are getting increasingly just complicated. Not difficult, but just complicated. It is getting a little warmer. Thankfully, we haven't had too bad of a hot summer yet. But just trying to balance, work and getting ready for our expected arrival. Words are also hard to come up with these days. My word retrieval is not great. But anyway, I wanted to come and film a podcast episode today. Seaver, my husband, just left to do some things back at his job. We're both working from home for the most part, but he has to go make some copies and drop some stuff off at the building that he usually works at. So he went and left to do that. And I thought I would sit down and give you a little idea of what I've been working on over the last few weeks. So it has been about two and a half weeks since I podcasted, and I've gotten quite a bit done. First, let's start with a couple finished objects that I have. So this one you guys will have seen in the last episode. I started this, and I want to say I was almost done with the body when I showed it to you the last time. I've since finished it, and I don't have it blocked yet, but it is so freaking cute that I didn't want to block it until I showed it to you, because I kept meaning to podcast over the last few days, and I would think about the fact that I needed to block. I have actually 2 things to block, but I'm like, well, I don't want it to be wet if I get the chance or the opportunity to podcast, so I just thought I'd wait until I got an episode in and then I'd block it. But basically the blocking is just gonna lay the stitches out a little flatter, and then the arms kind of tend to do, I think because of the garter stitch on the top here, they're kind of like pulling up a little bit, so I think that'll just straighten them out a little bit. But this is the Flax Light sweater by Tin Can Knits. It's knit with a fingering weight yarn. Sorry, if I sound like I'm out of breath, it's because you just get out of breath doing nothing when you're pregnant. But anyway, this was a club colorway from a Homespun House. It was her Little House in the Big Woods colorway. And I think I got this in January or February. She started the club in the new year and did 3 installments. So the first 3 books of the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, she dyed yarn to kind of based on those. So this was the first one, the Little House in the Big Woods. And I just thought it would be such a fun little baby sweater. Whether or not we were gonna have a boy or a girl, I was thinking that I would knit a little sweater out of this, but it is kind of fun for a boy. It's got that bright green. It looks a little neon in the light. It's a lot softer than it looks. right now. But I've got a couple different lighting sources going on, so I'm hoping the light's kind of okay. I know this side of me is shadowed because our big sliding doors are over here. So I'm getting a lot of natural light in on this side. And then this side, I have our like overhead light over our dining area over there, but it doesn't really balance out very well. So yeah, hopefully you can see that. But yeah, so I think I'm so happy with this. I think it's adorable. I can't wait to put him in it. This is the 3 to 6 month size, I want to say. So it should fit him well this winter. Definitely not a newborn size. Like, he's definitely gonna have to grow a bit to fit into this. So we're due in September, beginning of September. So that by the time he's 2-3 months old, I'm thinking he will fit pretty well into this. And then it'll be December. And yeah, a nice light sweater for inside. This will definitely be like an inside garment, not like a jacket. He's gonna have to wear a jacket over it, obviously, but yeah. So can you tell where my brain is at these days? My next project is also a sweater for our little guy. This one is not blocked as well. This one's a little bit smaller. This is a newborn size of the Baby Ashley sweater, which is a pattern I found on Ravelry because I had a single skein of Malabrigo Arroyo, which is the DK weight superwash merino yarn from Malabrigo. And I knit a sweater for my cousin's little guy over a year ago. He'll be 2 soon, I think. And it was a different sweater pattern, but it was just kind of a 1 skein DK weight sweater. This I thought was a perfect color for a little boy. So I knit that, but I had a skein left over because I had had 2 skeins. So again, I was kind of on the hunt for a single like skein baby sweater. And I came across this one. I liked how simple it was. It was just a nice raglan with a garter stitch collar. And then I liked this sort of broken rib detail, and that's on both sides of the button band. And it just took 1 skein. I have a little bit left over actually. I could probably knit like a little baby hat or something with it. And I just love the green color. I don't know the color name of this. I want to say, oh man, is it something with water? I can't remember. But this is the back. You can kind of see how the color knits up. And I started this, it was a week ago. It was about a week and a half ago because it was not this past weekend, but the weekend before. We went hiking a little bit and we had a pretty long car ride. It was like 3-4 hours in the car. So I started this. I had to rip it out because for some reason the pattern wasn't sticking. it was so funny. I was doing the patterning on one side and then I'd come around and I would just like do stockinette stitch to the end. And then I realized that after I was about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch into the body of the sweater where I was having to do that patterning, like after the garter stitch collar. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I ripped it all out. I sat down with it again. Of course, when you're not in a moving car trying to read a pattern on your phone and trying to figure out like what it's saying and telling you to do, it's so much easier. So when we were done driving, I actually looked at it, I read it through, I restarted it, and of course then it was just completely intuitive. So this turned out really good and I'm happy with this. This is, like I said, a newborn size. This will probably fit him. Of course, I don't know how big he's gonna be, but this might fit him for a month or so, a couple months, depending on how big he is. We do tend to have some big babies in our family, so I don't know, but this could be like a cute little jacket. Since September around here can still have really warm days, you know, we probably won't want to put him in anything too heavy for a little while. So when we go out for walks, he'll still maybe need, depending on how hot it is. I mean, if it's 80 degrees, he won't need a jacket, but you know, if it's in the 70s, 60s, 70s or something, he might need something light. And this being a DK weight stockinette stitch, it would be kind of a nice light, almost like a jacket. So yeah, I'm really pleased with that as well. It just flew off the needles. I finished it a few days ago. The sleeve, I did one of the sleeves in like an afternoon, not even. And yeah, I just have to weave in the ends and block it now. So super, super pleased with that. And I am ready to move on to my next baby item, which I haven't started yet, but the next thing on my list, I talked to you guys a little bit about this last week, not last week, but last episode, you know what I mean, was the baby blanket that I wanted to knit. So this will be out of Bad Sheep Yarn, yarn company, or just yarn, out of Alaska. And I got this several weeks ago. I was able to show you the yarn last time. It had like just come. This is her Constellations colorway, and it's on a 75/25 merino nylon DK weight. Just a pretty light blue. Again, the lighting's not the best, but I think you can see that pretty well. Pretty light blue, and it's got some dark blue speckles. And this is her Constellations colorway. And I like the color, of course, and I think it's perfect for, you know, actually I think it'd be perfect for anybody. You do not have to just save blue for baby boys. That is my opinion. But we are doing a like cute space themed nursery, which was my husband's contribution. He is a scientist, and he thought bringing a little bit of science into the baby's room would be fun. So we just have like cute stars and rocket ships and things like that to kind of bring the theme into the room. And of course, even though no one else will know that this is also space themed, I just couldn't pass it up getting the Constellations colorway. So I'll be knitting the baby blanket out of that. I have 2 more skeins, so 4 skeins total. It will be kind of a larger curb size blanket, but I kind of want it that way. I want something big that I can sort of wrap him up in. We can snuggle together on the couch. As you can tell, I'm getting all of these like images in my head of how you know, our daily life is going to be, or instances when I can you know, dress him in my hand knits or use my hand knits. And yeah, it's just getting really exciting. I also am fully aware that he will spit up on this blanket, and other sort of bodily fluids might end up on it as well. I am not a novice when it comes to little kids, but I also have those sort of rosy pictures in my mind of us sort of cuddling on the couch in the wintertime, and you know, using his baby blanket that I knit him. I don't know if I mentioned what pattern I'm gonna do. I have decided on the pasture blanket. I'm not sure who that's by. I will, as soon as I start this, I will get a Ravelry project page up. I never told you where to find me at the beginning of this episode, so I will do that now. But on Ravelry, I always have project pages for pretty much all of my projects, unless it's really obscure or I just don't get around to it. But otherwise, I pretty much put them all up. My Ravelry name is Driftless Knitter, which is the same as my Instagram name. So those of you who follow me on Instagram or who already follow my Ravelry, you can find me under that name. So yeah, I will put, like I said, the project page up with the pattern name, you know, linking to the pattern and kind of the specs and stuff on that. And I also kind of like to keep, I don't always take photos of each stage that my projects are in, but if I think of it, or if I'm taking a picture for Instagram anyway, I'll put that picture up on Ravelry. So yeah, usually I have photos along with my projects if you wanted to check out, you know, kind of the details on any of those. But yeah, so that's gonna be my next one. I have a couple more things I want to make. I really need to write a list because I keep going back into my favorites and being like, oh yeah, I wanted to knit that for him too. So yeah, definitely need to make a list to make sure that I'm remembering, you know, all the projects I wanted to make. Because it's easy to sort of just like move on to the next thing, and or see a new pattern or something like that, or see the yarn and be like, oh, that would be really cute out of that. But I actually do have like a few pretty usable things that I think will come in handy for him that I want to knit. So yeah, definitely want to keep those in mind and just remind myself of that. So after I finished actually I hadn't quite finished the Baby Ashley baby sweater yet. I went back to a languishing project that I'm wondering if anybody remembers. This was a project I started a while ago to knit for my friend. Actually, her name's Ashley as well, so that fits in. She was actually my sister's friend in college, but we went to the same college. I'm 2 years younger than them, so I got 2 years of being with my sister, hanging out with her at times. She and I are very close, so it wasn't, well, sometimes I probably tagged along when that's the story of my life, being the little sister. But my sister and I would have sleepovers at her apartment when I wanted to get out of the dorms. I'd go to church with them. I would, you know, just sort of meet them at the library. There's a few times met at the library and just did homework together and stuff like that. So I did get to know a couple of her really good friends that she would be around a lot. We'd have lunch together in the cafeteria, things like that. So yeah, so this is for Ashley. She asked me, I want to say it was about 2 years ago, to knit her some pillowcases. I almost said pillowcase covers. I'm like, the pillowcases are the covers for the pillows, so that's a little redundant. But she wanted these pillowcases for her couch pillows. And at the time, I don't know, I always seem to overestimate myself and maybe underestimate the projects. I usually say yes to like everything. I'm gonna do that less now, I think, because of the baby coming and everything. I just know I don't have as much knitting time, but or I won't in the future. But yeah, I didn't really think about that when I could have gotten, honestly, I could have gotten them done a long time ago. But I set them down because I was probably knitting like Christmas gifts or something. And then there's always something more fun to knit than the homework knitting, which is what some of these projects turn into, because you're not knitting them for yourself, you're not knitting them out of your own yarn or like stash yarn you've been looking forward to, or like, I'm not going to use these. So even though I wanted to do this for a friend, it just sort of kept getting put on the back burner. So anyway, long story short, I finished knitting one. I still need to seam them together, but I finished knitting one, and then she asked for two. So I finished knitting that one probably, I don't even know, before I was pregnant, which means it was before Christmas. So that was a while ago, 6 months ago. And then we moved, and I had this bag of yarn and these white pillows that they're supposed to go in, and the book and everything. And Seaver's just like, what is this? Like, this has just been sitting here in the corner of the living room forever, and now we're moving it. Like, what is this? So I'm like, okay, I really need to like get on this and get them done. So this past, when was that? Thursday night. So a little less than a week ago, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna cast one on and I'm just gonna knit and I'm gonna get it done. So I cast on one of the front sides. Basically all of them are cast on the same way. It's like a straight cast on and then you do seat stitch forever. So I still have a few more inches to do on this side, and then you do a second one similar to this, only it has ribbing and buttonholes on it, so you can, you know, put your buttons on there. And then you do one that is like almost double in length, not quite because they overlap, for the front. So the yarn I'm knitting with is yarn that she bought and sent to me. It is called Deborah Norville Everyday, and it's 100% acrylic, and it's a worsted weight. It's from Premier Yarns, if that means anything to anybody. I think I recognize the like company name. But yeah, so in terms of acrylic yarn, it's not the worst. I'm gonna say it's soft. It still kind of has that like slick, squeaky feel, a little bit, just a tiny bit. I don't think you can really get away from that with acrylic, no matter how well it's made. And this one, I like I said, I'm gonna be honest, this is not the worst yarn I've ever used. So yeah. I personally don't think I would use acrylic. I think she just got it because it's washable, it's anti-pilling, and it's cheaper, which I totally understand. Yeah, so not the worst. I don't know if this has a color number or even a color name. I don't see one. Well, I guess it says that the lot number, ooh, the color is Twilight Blue. Very nice. And the lot is 7379. So yeah, probably a Michael's yarn or a Hobby Lobby. So I am actually quite pleased with how fast this knits up. I took the needles off because I was going to start the pasture blanket today and I needed the size 7s for just the very like bottom of the blanket, and then it switches to a size 8, and these are done on a size 7, so I had them on here. These are my Addie interchangeable, they're the long lace, yeah, long lace interchangeable sets. And yeah, I knit about half of this in one night, just I think like 2.5 hours of knitting, which was great. And then I did the rest of it over the weekend. I had a very nice relaxing weekend at my in-laws, and I was able to just take some time to relax, read, knit. This I can do while I read, because it's just seed stitch back and forth. And once in a while I have to look down and make sure I'm still on track, because we've all done that where you're knitting seed stitch, you're not paying attention, and it turns into ribbing. So I do, have to like check that I'm on the right stitch. But other than that, I can just have my book propped in front of me. I have my knitting in my lap, and I can read at the same time, which was awesome because I spent most of my time sitting outside in their like driveway, like in front of the house. They have like a concrete slab before the driveway starts. And there's a table and some nice chairs and stuff there. So I spent most of my time there last weekend. I don't go every time my husband goes to help on his parents' farm, but this past weekend his brother was home for one of the only times since the COVID-19 started. His brother's been working from home and lives alone up in the Twin Cities. So this is the second time he's been home since all this started, which it was really great to see him. And then they were, it was beautiful weather, and it's the middle of June, so it's the perfect time to cut hay and make hay. So they were busy doing that. And in other years, I would be probably tagging along the majority of the time with Seaver in the tractor, but this year is a little bit different. I'm not able to stay in the tractor as long. It's not as comfortable. It's also not as safe depending on which fields they're doing because of the jostling and the bouncing. So I did get to go a little bit with him, which was really fun. And I went and we cut a pretty flat field that had minimal bouncing, and it was a smaller one too, so I didn't have to worry about having to go to the bathroom or anything like that. Just everything gets so much more complicated when you have to think about things like that. So, but yeah, the rest of the time I sat, read, knit, chatted with his mom, ate food. It was a great weekend. It felt like vacation. But anyway, I brought that once I finished the sleeve of the baby Ashley sweater, which I did on Saturday. I focused on the pillowcase. So if I just keep knitting on that every so often, I should be able to get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and it won't be just languishing here in my house. I'll be able to get it off to Ashley, and although I'm not sure how I'm going to do that now that people aren't really visiting each other, because her and my sister usually visit each other several times over the summer. She lives up in Minnesota, but I don't think they're going to be doing that this year. And I really don't want to ship 2 big couch pillows in a box. That might cost a lot. I'll just have to figure it out. I should finish the project first, and then I'll figure it out. But the last thing I want to show you today is I stopped in the middle of a row because I wanted to take advantage of the time I had tonight, and I had started a row before Seaver left. But this, I know I've showed this to you a couple of times before, not in the last episode because I hadn't touched it at all for a couple of weeks. Around the time we were moving, I just did not have the headspace to be working on this. As you can see, it is slightly intricate. There's a lot going on, and it's beautiful, but it's a bugger, that's for sure. Actually, once you get into the rhythm of it, it's not as bad. But this is I just want to look and make sure I'm saying it correctly. Orthogonal, the Orthogonal Shawl by Emily Green. And I can show you this picture because there's no instructions on it. And I don't know if you can pick out all those different interesting geometric lace patterns on there. Definitely not your average lace design. But this is a sample knit that I'm doing for Knit Circus, which is the company that I work for. I feel like those of you who have watched for a long time just kind of roll your eyes every time like podcasters have to repeat themselves on the off chance that there's somebody new watching. It's like, I can't just assume everybody knows everything about my life. But yeah, so anyway, yep, I work at Knit Circus. This is a sample for them. I'm knitting it out of our Opulence yarn, which is an 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon. It's a beautiful fingering weight, and this is a lovely, lovely gold color called Cut the Mustard. And I absolutely love this. I love the yarn, I love the color. The rows are starting to take a little bit longer because the shawl is getting bigger, but I am still only, this is the first ball of yarn. And I probably have less than half here, but still. it's supposed to take 3 skeins of yarn. And I'm already like doing a right side and wrong side back and forth takes about 15 minutes to do that, because you know, you've got all these charts that you're looking at. There's 4 different charts that you look at, and just a lot of stitches. So I wanted to do the math and see, because I have the charts, I don't have to like count my stitches necessarily. I can just count how many like on the chart and like multiply. Wanted to see how many stitches I have on the needle right now, because it feels like a lot, and I'm just wondering if it's as much as I think it is, or if it's just me having to take my time through the pattern, and that's why it's taking so long. But anyway, I picked this up a few days ago, knit a little bit on that. Today I knit about 6 rows. I know it sounds so, I was working on that for probably like an hour, and I did 6 rows. So it is slow going, but I don't want to drop the ball on that. It is a sample. It's yarn that I was given because we want to make kits out of this, and I don't want it to take me like an entire year. I'd love to finish it by the time the baby comes. I'm hoping. We have 3 months, just a little under 3 months until the due date. So I'm hoping I can do that. I don't know. That, or it'll be so close to the end. But yeah, I might have to then go on hold for a little while before I'm able to work on that. But yeah, and that is in my Chasing Acorns bag. And this is a Harry Potter themed bag, or Quidditch themed, I should say, which is of course Harry Potter. But I like kind of the newspaper look. It reminds me of, I don't know, like a flyer or something, like a sales flyer about, you know, Quidditch, the latest broomsticks and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think that's just about it. This is such a short episode. I'm not used to that. I'm used to, I don't know, talking a lot more, or at least having, I feel like I did have quite a bit to show you, but for some reason, yeah, it's only just over a half hour. The other thing, I put my cozy memory blanket back up here because I like the way it looks, kind of it brightens up the background. But I couldn't remember if I had I haven't knit this in probably a couple of weeks, but I do have 2 squares up here that might be new to you, but part of me wants to say I showed it to you last time. I think I did, because I think I did all 4 of these. And I remember going on and on and on about the socks I knit out of this one, which was my vacation socks a couple of years ago when Seaver and I went on our honeymoon, and the great memories that surrounded that pair of socks. So I haven't worked on that since the last episode, but I think I'm just gonna lay it on the back of the couch just to brighten up the background a little bit during the podcast. And then if I do knit on it, it's an easy access for me to show it to you. So yeah, I hope you all are doing very well. I hope you all are finding a little bit of time to kind of self-care. There's a lot going on right now, and it's really important that we stay in tune and educated about what's going on. I talked a lot about, not a lot, but I talked more in depth about the atmosphere right now, all the protests that are happening, and the efforts that are going into reform and educating ourselves in the last episode. But yeah, that's it's going to be a continual thing, I think, for the rest of our lives. At least I hope so, because there's always room to grow and change for the better of our communities, for the better of ourselves, our friends, our family. But it is good sometimes to not to shut it out, but to, I think, take a step back and just let yourself sort of be at peace for a little while before you go back to it. Because if you are completely burned out, if you, it's hard to make positive change when you're fried, when your brain is fried. So, yeah, we have to keep being present, but then also do things that sort of let us heal at the same time. So I hope you guys are doing that. If it's the crafting, if it's, just doing other self-care things, meditation, taking a bubble bath, exercising, whatever you need to do to keep yourself healthy and happy, and then able to go back and continue what we need to do to make this world a better place. So anyway, on that note, I am going to sign off. I hope you all have a great week, and thank you so much for watching. If you are a returning viewer, I appreciate you so much, and I always look forward to seeing you guys here, to seeing you on YouTube. If you have comments, please be sure to comment. Ravelry, Instagram's a great place to find me, see pictures. I've been a little quiet on there, just in the sense that, I don't know, I feel like I don't know. I don't want to say I'm taking a step back from posting things. I'm always on it. Not always, but I'm on it a lot. I'm reading and I'm looking at people's posts and things like that. But I really want to have my ear on the ground and not just be sort of posting my own things willy-nilly. So, but I will occasionally be posting things, and I'll get back into that as well. So, yeah, comment, come say hi. If you're a new viewer that just found my podcast, thank you so much for checking it out, for watching. Giving it a thumbs up would be great. Subscribing would be even better. And yeah, or telling a few friends. If you have some knitting friends who like to watch podcasts, I would really appreciate a shout out for that as well. So anyway, I'm so glad you guys came by. And I hope to be back very soon. Until then, do things that make your heart happy, and I will be doing the same. Bye.